one time she liked one of my friends, right, who was
Yeah.
African American. But she said, I would never be able to date him. And I said, why? And so she tells me, my family won't accept me dating an African American. She's Caucasian. And so at that moment, I'm like,
Welcome to the Radiance Unbroken podcast, the space where high achieving women come home to themselves. I'm Dr. India. This podcast is your sanctuary for nervous system restoration, hormone harmony, and whole woman healing. Here we peel back the layers of stress, survival mode, and self-abandonment. We rebuild from a place of truth, safety, and embodied radiance. Whether you've navigated burnout, hormonal chaos, emotional overload, or the quiet ache of feeling disconnected from yourself, you're in the right place. Today, my guest is Miss Danielle. She's a nurse practitioner, a mother, a professional. She's just all of that. And she's going to tell us her story. Now, let's get started. So, welcome, Danielle. How are you today?
good. Thank you, India. Well, thanks for welcoming me to your podcast.
Thank you for being here. Now, I usually start with your origin story. So, can you just give us a brief description of, your background? And then we're going to ask you some questions and get into the nitty gritty of things so you can help
Oh,
some people out today.
all right. Perfect. Yes. So I just background with medical field, started out right out of high school as a certified nursing assistant. I started working at a local nursing home who actually taught the 2-week class for CNA. And once you got through with the 2-week class, they let you work there and train, and they paid for your state certification. So I stayed there, of course, got some, just, my feet wet, right? Get some exposure with the clients. And I stayed there for probably about a year, and then ended up going to St. John Hospital, 12 Mile in Hoover. And then just started working my way up there. Started as a patient care tech, worked my way up to so I started nursing school also during that time. Worked as a nurse tech, got my RN. So I started out with my associates RN. And then from there, so I worked on a cardiac cath floor. So we recovered all the cardiac cath patients. And then from there, I went to a step down unit. I just wanted some more critical care and to focus on more of the body, not just the heart. So that,
Exactly.
yeah, so I could find out more, than just that specialty. So worked there, did some management. So I moved from step down to an advanced progressive care unit, did some management there. That's where I started, leadership role. And then started going back to school from there. So I did a bachelor to master's program. And that was almost 4 years probably. But after I completed that, then I ventured out into the outpatient world, into internal medicine as a nurse practitioner. Um, so, which helped me, that step down experience helped me to be able to focus on the whole body once I was in internal medicine. And then from there, I actually took a little break from, doing nurse practitioner, started doing leadership again because I thought, okay, I want to go back to leadership way. So I did.
Really?
I
So
know.
you said forget patient care, let's do leadership.
It was actually, so here's the thing. I went to the outpatient world and I was like, I miss the acute care. I miss the hospital. Okay. So I had a manager who has since passed away. God rest his soul. I used to love him. But anyhow, he called me up and said, do you want to come work with me and be the director of nursing at a long-term care facility? And so it was an acute care. It had the drips, it had the acuity, and it was like inside of the RIM building. So here I was like, oh, I could do leadership and get back into the hospital type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So after that, I did realize, okay, I have to keep up with my license and with the hours for practicing as a nurse practitioner. So I ended up saying, okay, let me, I want to go back to seeing patients and just focusing on the patient. That was during COVID time. So leadership was a little bit of a challenge during that time also. Anyhow, so I got back to closer to home, better work-life balance, and now I'm back doing nurse practitioner.
Wow. Okay, so
Yeah.
you just took us from the beginning all the way to the
Yes.
current.
Yep.
So you are very experienced. You have a lot of experience in nursing and healthcare, and that is so awesome. And I can see it in you. You know how caring you are. So
Thank
it's
you.
all over you. And I appreciate that. And, I don't think nurses and nurse practitioners get the recognition that they need these days because when you think about healthcare, we do a lot.
A lot. Absolutely. A lot. And it's changed, right? Like it's changed so much just over this, I don't know, 10 years even. So yeah, recognition is huge. And that I do try to every nurse, everyone in the medical field I run into and start talking to them about what they're doing, where they're at. That's like the first thing I do is make sure I recognize them and, kind of bring back that positivity part and why they're doing what they're doing.
Absolutely, the why. We want to help people. We all have the story of why we began. Now, did you dive a little bit into that, why you became a nurse? Or is it just something that fell in your lap?
So, you know what? And I know this might sound cliche, okay, but I only ever wanted to either be a nurse or I really thought first when I was younger, like it goes all the way back to my mom buying me like little doctor kits when I was a kid. I'm not
Oh,
even joking. I'm not making this up. So she would, that was my favorite thing to play with. Okay.
hmm.
And just I thought I wanted to deliver babies initially. I said, I'm going to be a obstetrician gynecologist and I'm going to deliver babies. So once I started working at the nursing home, started taking classes in college, I said, yeah, maybe just for something quicker than going to medical school and let me do nursing because once I started working in the hospital and just seeing the interaction with nursing, I said, no, I want to do nursing. And I just went that way. And I've never even thought about why, I didn't go to medical school. Nursing has just been it. I just love helping people. And then we'll probably talk about it, I'm sure, later on with some questions. But once I had my own kids and I went into those OB rotations and then I had my own kids, I said, oh no, I'm glad. I just want to focus on my own kids, not anybody else's kids. So,
Same here. When I was in clinicals during our OB rotation, I said, "Oh, no, no, no. I do not want to be an OB nurse because at first I thought I wanted to do OB
yep.
until I had my clinicals at a local hospital and it was young women giving birth to babies. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, "Oh my goodness, they're so young."
Yeah.
And
And
I was like, "Oh, no, 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 that's not for me."
yeah. And for me, kind of, it was like once the baby was born, like you didn't, I always saw in the movies you're feeding them, you're changing them, like they're staying in the nursery. I was like, oh, I want to take care of the babies. But when I did my rotation, it was like the moms had the babies and the babies stayed in the room with them. It wasn't any interaction. So I said, oh yeah, I don't want to do this.
Yeah. Exactly. One day we discuss my origin of nursing because it started off in the ER and then it went elsewhere. But I'm just glad that I did become a nurse because it was in me to help people. And we can do so many other things in nursing just as you have. You were a floor nurse and then before that even a CNA, a floor nurse, and then leadership and management, and then you know what? There's no limitations. Let's just put it
None.
like that.
And
No
that's the beauty
limitations.
of nursing because you can take all the different avenues and try it out and basically do anything that you feel like you have the interest in with nursing.
Absolutely. Now, a little bit into your younger self, like growing up and just how you were developed as a young woman and then into adulthood. And let's start a little bit about your background. So, you and I have spoken before, and you told me that you are biracial.
Yep.
And so I want to dive a little bit into that and just growing up biracial, what were some of the earliest moments where you realized you were navigating two worlds at once?
Yeah, so that, I mean, that's an interesting question, and I don't think I've ever really sat and thought about it, put like that. But so yes, my mom is Polish and Irish, and my dad is African American. And so I was born, my mom was in the Navy. So I was born in Maryland. Okay. And then all my mom's family is from the west side of Detroit. Okay. And so I mean, I went to school, elementary school, right in Detroit. And then we ended up traveling to California, was our next base. And just, I honestly did not even, when you put it that way, navigating two different worlds,
Mhm.
honestly, I didn't even know that was a vision to anybody until I got to high school, believe it or not,
Wow.
because
Mhm.
I know. So, when we grew up on the west side, so it was like there was a mixture. There was like Polish, Irish, but also African American, right? And I, it was just us family, and that's all like we really saw. But when I moved to California, there was Filipinos, there was Hispanics, there was Samoans, just so multicultural. And so it still wasn't even, I didn't even really pay attention to like your skin color, my skin color, my racial background, anything like that. So it wasn't until we got stationed back here out in Macomb Township at Selfridge. I went to Anchor Bay High School. And so that was predominantly Caucasian, right? And the moment I really realized that there was even two worlds basically was when I had a friend. One time she liked one of my friends, right, who was
Yeah.
African American. And but she said I would never be able to date him. And I said, why? And so she tells me, my family won't accept me dating an African American. She's Caucasian. And so at that moment, I'm like, what? Like, what are we talking about? I did not
Right.
even know that color of our skin, or it, just because I was always taught to, my mom always taught us, you don't see color, everyone's the same. We all,
Mhm.
are people
Mhm.
and humans. So I guess that's when you say navigating two worlds, um, that's where I kind of realized it. But even more so, probably as an adult, is really been good because I can, when I'm seeing patients or when I run into certain people, or depending on what kind of room I'm in,
Okay. Hmm.
I can relate to anybody in the room. To be honest with you,
That's awesome. So that exposure of being around other cultures allowed you to have this well-rounded point of view?
I feel like, yep, I have a well-rounded point of view on, just accepting you for what you believe and you for what you believe. And I'm, I'm not biased. You know what I mean? I can't have, I'm just in the middle, and I'm like, okay, long as nobody's physically hurting me or, verbally hurting me, then, I can, yeah. So I feel like it made me kind of just be able to understand both sides, three
Yeah.
sides, different cultures, everything.
Wow. That's awesome. That's good because we know that different experiences can shape your identity negatively or positively. So, All
Yep.
right.
Yep.
Good, good.
And I even feel on the other side too, I might even be able to, when people make a statement like that, like I didn't know how to deal with that statement when I was in high school, right? But
Mhm.
something like now, I'd be able to kind of give them like positive, like viewpoints and, notes and like, well, just to kind of make them see we're the same people versus like, you shouldn't look at somebody just as their, ethnicity or background.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Wow. We're gonna dive a little deeper because you're not
Okay.
only your mother, you're a wife, and then we're gonna dive a little deeper just because of
Okay.
the resilience that you told me that you had to have growing up. So when you look back at your childhood and early adulthood, what's one hardship that quietly built the resilience you rely on today?
So I think, maybe one of the hardships that I quietly, can build on today with, looking at resilient wise, is probably time. Okay. So my mom was a single mom shortly after, maybe I was like 3 or 4 years old. And so she worked, a lot. She had to travel with the military. We would stay with family members for like 2 weeks at a time just because we couldn't go out of the country with her. And we traveled a lot. And so I think that hardship with time, her not being able to maybe be there when I might have needed her to be for something at school, or maybe just even with sports, right? Maybe I wanted to play basketball or go do these sports at a younger age, but I really couldn't do that because not only was time, but financially, right? She had to pick and choose what was more important at the time. And so playing like sports or paying for an AAU, you know, team to be on, she couldn't really do that, especially it was me and my brother. Okay. So now it's two
Okay.
kids. So splitting your time, single parent, two kids. So now I'm just fortunate today that even though, and I think we might dive in. Okay, so the time today as an adult, that's the what has over, from a young from childhood till now as an adult, just having that time to be able to go to my kids' sporting events, go to their activities, getting through school, which, and I think we'll dive into in other questions, but getting through school for myself while they were young, but making sure I was completed by the time they really needed my attention and to be able to go. And do all the activities that they wanted to do, but be present, even financially be able to provide that for them, along, with my husband and myself. But so time was that quiet, um, I think, hardship when I was younger until now that I'm can kind of appreciate and grew from.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. And we're going to build upon that with asking a couple of more questions. So,
Okay.
navigating as it relates to belonging. So, was there a moment in your life where you finally felt a sense of belonging, and not in one culture or the other, but in yourself?
Okay. I think so. Probably in the medical field, like just this was, I knew I wanted to get into nursing, but once I did, get into the profession, working, meeting people, it was like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what gives me happiness, to be honest with you. And so like, yeah, just belonging with those groups of people. And I've been lucky over time in the different areas that I've worked in that we work together as a team. And so I feel like that was like, yeah, this is where I belong. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, because you've climbed that, let's see, professional ladder. You've gone from being a CNA to a FNP, so that's a family nurse practitioner. So what was that hardest season like during that climb? And what kept you moving forward? There's a lot of women out there that need to know this. They're being
Yes.
stumped. They're stopping at the hard time. So what kept you going during that climb?
Yeah, you know what? It was really just focusing on how it's going to be better later. So one of the hardest times was my second year of nursing school, I ended up becoming pregnant with my first baby. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh wow, like, okay, here I'm gonna have a baby, but I'm in school and I'm working full time. And my husband, he was real supportive, but just individually, I was like, oh wow, like this is a lot, and how you feel when you are pregnant, tired, and but what kept me going, to be honest, so it was my second year of nursing program,
Okay.
and I was in my OB rotation when I was pregnant. And so I was like learning about everything that was going on with me at the time. So that engaged me. And it wasn't like it was, oh my God, I got to learn this or study for this. I kind of just, it clicked. So when they say everything, there's a time for everything. And when it happens,
Yes.
that was like one of those examples. And then after I had my daughter, and that
Mhm.
was 21 years ago now. So anyhow, had my daughter, and was in my pediatric rotation after I had her. So now I'm learning about what's going on with her. And I was like,
Awesome.
it just happened like all in divine order.
Hmm.
But that's what kept me going, that time and place during that moment. And then just being able to be done with school by time she was a little over a year old once I finished. And so I got through that trying season there. But then also few years went by, well, 6 to be exact, right? And I was still here. I was back in school again for my
Hmm.
bachelor and master's. And my
Hmm.
son, we ended up getting pregnant with my son. And I told myself, you know what? I have to be done with my master's by time he goes to school. So that was what pushed me. That was like, that's my goal. That's what I'm gonna do, because I don't want to be in school, and I want to be able to focus on him going to school and whatever, my daughter had going on as she was, progressing through elementary school. So you
Wow.
can do it. If I know a lot of women might want to quit and might say, okay, this was, hard, but I tell anybody that story, and you can do it when you decide that it just has to be done, you do it when you have to.
I can attest to that, Danielle. Oh my
Yes.
goodness. Yes. I've had multiple babies during the course of my education as well. And it is so
See,
doable.
it is when you have to, right? You like, okay, there's no other way, there's no other choice, and you just keep moving.
Yeah,
And then you look back after and you're like, okay, it's kind of like you remember that the little bit of the hard time, but the outcome definitely outweighs the trying parts that you had along the way.
it does. And then you can help so many people thereafter, so many people who don't know they can make it through until they hear your
Right.
story, right?
It Exactly. Right. So I'm glad to be here sharing it with you and to all your viewers who are going to see this and, maybe get remotivated with however they're feeling at the moment.
Absolutely. As women, we carry so many different things, and we now in this current time, you see so many women becoming leaders in different organizations. And your leadership journey was a little interesting, right? So, as a former director of nursing and now a nurse practitioner, what leadership lesson did you learn the hard way, but are now grateful for? Now, a moment from our sponsors. Aryze Well is where harmony, gut restoration, and nervous system regulation come together to help you feel like yourself again. If you're tired of guessing what's wrong, we help you get answers and relief. Telehealth visits available. Call 248-919-4766. Aryze Well, whole woman healing refined.
So, um, I think one of the things that I definitely learned in leadership was not everyone's going to like you. Okay.
No matter
And
how kind you are, right?
no matter how kind you are. And I really learned that some people will take your kindness for weakness. Okay. But I had to really tell myself that it's not you, meaning me, it's, them, because if you're going by, most of the times you go by the book, like it's plain when you're following standards, when you're following protocols, when you're following best practices. I mean, it just is what it is. And um of course you're going to be lenient and listen to people when they're going through their own hardships and kind of work with them, because you have to show empathy and sympathy with everyone, not just patients, but your coworkers, because you don't know what anyone's going through when they come to work. And some people come to work to leave their personal life at home, but some people bring their personal life to work. And so you just have to have those tough conversations. And if they don't like you after the fact, at least you were doing what you were supposed to for the safety of your patients and for the safety of the organization. So I feel like, and now, it's kind of helped. I brought that, even with my patients, and I'm talking to them, and maybe they're disgruntled or maybe they're mad because I didn't, they didn't get from me the medication they might have wanted that they called to ask for. But I'm here to, educate and teach you that this is best practice. This is
Mm-hmm.
where we should start at. If you don't like, what you're hearing from me, in a better way to say it, there's other providers you can get another opinion from.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I'm comfortable with that. I'm not mean to people. I'm not, I'm just I'll talk to them as kindly and tell them kind of how it is, but not everyone's going to like you. So you just have to live with that, I guess.
Yeah. And being a mother, you learn how to set boundaries. You learn how to set the rules. And sometimes even our children are not going to like it. But we know it's
Yeah,
best for them. And if
right.
they trust us, we're going to provide that best thing for them. And I think leadership, in leadership, you do the same because you want the best for your employees, your
Yes,
staff, the organization, and a good teamwork. It makes
absolutely.
everything better.
Absolutely.
Good
And
teamwork.
sometimes, what another thing I did learn too is, depending on what role the person is, they may not even understand what you're doing and why you're doing it until they're in
Hmm.
those shoes, and they
Hmm.
may not ever understand it.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah.
Yes. Now, how has being a mother influenced you, the way you show up as a clinician and a leader and a woman?
Yeah. So, basically, I feel like any just being a mom, like when I'm talking to patients, or when I'm, as a leader, just talking to individuals, like whatever I'm saying, would I be okay with somebody saying that to my child, if they were here as an employee? So just with my tone, with my approach and how I
Mhm.
explain things, like, is this the way, just being a mom, would you want somebody talking to your child like this? So, in maybe, like you mentioned before, the way you would explain it to them, because you do, have kids and you're used to multitasking and explaining things in different ways. So, I think, yeah, I just as a mom, you end up having this different kind of strength to um, interact with people.
I know. Getting that mother experience and taking it into the world, it to me it helps you. It helps you prioritize. It helps you delegate. It helps you be intentional. So many different factors that are so important
Right.
in living a productive life, right?
Absolutely. And then even maybe understanding their perspective on what they're
Hmm.
feeling, or just figuring out if you're trying to diagnose them with something, and then just knowing, like depression, it could be. So you could start
Hmm.
asking about things, what's going on at home, um, how old are your children? Just moms, I think, have that inner, like, sixth sense type thing, or
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
we just know. So we know when we need to spend a little bit more time with specific patients and kind of ask them, dive deeper, into their visit.
Yeah. Now let's dive a little bit into the healing and identity part of your life because you had a lot of things going on. So what part of your personal healing journey has most surprised you, especially as someone who spends her life helping others and helping them feel better?
Yeah. So, I mean, when you mean healing, like, just what's an example of like healing that you would like think about when you ask that question?
So healing journey would be going from like disappointments or things that didn't go quite our way in life and we healed from it. So
Okay.
I talk about how I went through a marriage that was tough. It was tough, but I had to learn how to forgive. I had to learn how to refocus and reset. And so that was my healing. So,
Okay. Yeah. So, probably when you hear everyone's different stories as you're like seeing patients, and you're seeing all the different, conditions they're in, it makes you realize and look at your situation or your life a little differently. So maybe for me, actually, something like, so obesity is something that runs big in my family. Okay. And I
mhm,
battled with my own weight and just self-conscious, and how I look on the outside, for probably
mhm,
since high school. And I think through my journey over time, healing, in finding myself, especially within this last like 5 years, um, probably has been through patients and seeing their situations, and like really realizing, like, okay, I can take care of myself better. I need to take care of myself better, especially because it runs in my family, diabetes, heart disease, high cholesterol. And so just really waking up and saying, okay, instead of like talking about it, just really, you got to start doing it. So that probably has been, a little bit of healing for me, is through everyone else's stories as I've been seeing them over the years and seeing the bad side of it. They got a foot amputated, they had a heart attack, they had a stroke, and I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I definitely don't want to do that. I want to be around for as long as I can and
Yeah.
still be able to enjoy life with my kids and do the activities with them as long as I can. So, that I think healing and identity for me has been through my patients.
Well, I do want to dive a little bit into self-care because, as you know, that is one thing that I try to teach my clients all the time about self-care, resetting. And self-care is very dear to my heart. I like to go to the water. I like to listen to live jazz. I like to go to the art galleries and, do a little fine dining. So
Yeah.
your self-care practices are intentional, right? And I want you to dive a little bit into those and which of these became essential, your essential self-care go-tos during difficult seasons.
Okay, yeah, so self-care is definitely important for sure. You even with, patients, you want to practice what you preach. And I tell them, you need to find something that you enjoy doing. Do something, that makes you happy once a day, right? So I enjoy yoga. I enjoy spending time with friends, meeting up for breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever. I enjoy going to have manicures, pedicures, massages for sure, because when you are working and on your feet a lot, you want to just decompress and relax.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like yoga has been my number one go-to for a while because it's mental, physical, and spiritual.
Yeah.
And no matter what, I do set time aside for myself. Most recently, I got back into it 2 days a week for sure. Just put it on my calendar and go because that's my time to come to my mat, to be quiet. Phone is not with me. I'm away from everybody, and it's just me, the instructor guiding us through, and just myself, regrouping, replenishing. And that's, the setting an intention sometimes. So you
Come on.
mentioned, it being
Mm-hmm.
intentional. So
Mm-hmm.
depends on, what is going on at home, what went on at work, what's
Mm-hmm.
going on in the world. Because I do, think and hear a lot about just what's going on in society. So, going to yoga, setting an intention, focusing on it, and then just, taking that with me, even the breathing sometimes, when I'm on break at work or whatever, depending on how
Mm-hmm.
busy it is, just sitting there, breathing, meditating. So I think yoga is my number one go-to during any kind of season.
Yeah, because it decreases that stress level. It helps our cortisol balance out, that dopamine effect, all of those good things.
Yes,
Sitting
absolutely.
quietly in that. And it
Yep.
that reminds me about boundaries. So I love bringing up boundaries. What is your point
Yeah.
of view? What do you feel about boundaries? Being a busy mother, a wife, a professional, a woman carrying it all. How important are boundaries to you?
Very important. And so that's something that I had to learn too, is that setting boundaries is not being selfish. It's not, just focusing on yourself, but you have to set boundaries and take care of yourself so you can take care of other people and keep, working, keep being a mom, keep your sanity. So, there's nothing wrong with setting boundaries. You have to sometimes, like, okay, I'm cutting the phone off. Or I'm going to sit out back for, a half
Mhm.
an hour watching TV. I'm going to read my book for a half an hour before I start making dinner. But setting boundaries, and nobody should be mad at you for setting those boundaries because um it's a good way to, again, decompress, and so you can keep taking care of other people.
It is. It is. And after 26 years in healthcare, that is a long time in healthcare, helping people. What still lights you
It
up,
is a long
Danielle?
time.
I know it has to be something that still lights you up, that still motivates you to get out the bed and go take care of people every day. What keeps you passionate about serving patients?
Yeah, it's just, and a lot of patients are appreciative, okay? And when you see them, multiple times and you end up kind of, their life story, I've had some people that I've seen for um like 5 years now. And so you get to know them, their family, what's going on with them. So what really keeps me going is still being there for others. Okay. Like they're depending on you to come to work. And it's not a job. When you, I just still don't feel like it's a job, which is, I hope I never feel like it's just a job. I do enjoy going there just because I know that people are depending on me. If it's kind of like that loyalty, like if there's an appointment, I know that's my time. I'm gonna go, whether it's myself
Hmm.
or with somebody else, and just showing up for them. So I still have the that light to make sure people get the proper care, make sure people get the proper attention, make sure I want to make sure that I spend enough time to look over just the regular screening so they can stay healthy. I
Yeah.
don't want to, there's, some people do say, there's providers who are in and out the room or whatever. I don't want to ever be that. And I want, when they do find me, I want them to know that I still want to make sure that I'm doing all the proper steps to keep. So that's just, so me personally, the what keeps it going for me is because I want to know that there's somebody taking care of people how they should be taken care of. If it were my mom or my kids or whatever coming in the room, I want to make sure that they're getting the proper care.
Yeah, because sometimes we see things that surprise us when our loved ones go into the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I don't even tell them I'm in healthcare because I want to
Yes,
see how they are going to be treated, and I would hope
absolutely.
it's going to be treated. They're going to be treated well.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you've seen some things as well.
Yeah, and it does, sometimes just doing a regular exam, it kind of hurts my feelings when somebody will say, nobody's ever looked at my feet before and they're diabetic. And I'm like, oh, all right, well, this is what we're gonna do. You know, it just those basic things that are getting overlooked that can prevent, a lot from happening. It breaks my heart a little bit. So I'm just like, okay, I got to make sure whoever comes my direction is getting the proper workup and the proper alignment with care.
All right. So Danielle, I have really enjoyed speaking with you today. I wanted to know if there are two things that you could tell our listeners. The women who are carrying it all, the women who think that they can't make it or it's too overwhelming. What would you like to tell them today?
So I it's hard to narrow it down to just two things because we're motivators, right? So,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
but the main top two things, never give up on yourself. Okay. You are the most important person. So keeping yourself focused, healthy for everyone else in your family. That's how if you're worried about who's going to take care of your family, who's going to do this, who's going to do that, you have to put yourself first. So it's not being selfish, but you have to never give up on yourself, take care of yourself. So, and two, stay positive. You have to, even though it's
Mhm.
hard, okay? So it might be hard because there's different seasons and there's different situations that happen in, families, whether it be, death or separation or, accidents. Just you have to stay positive. Always try to find the good in a situation for anybody who's spiritual, you just have to put it in God's hands, okay? And just keep going. So I guess that goes along with never giving up on yourself, but just never giving up on your goals and what you want to meet. So stick with your
Thank you.
goals, keep going towards them, no matter how hard it might be in the process.
Keep going. Keep going because just keep putting one foot in front of the other because you never know what is on the other side of those steps, right?
Absolutely. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel,
Yep,
okay?
absolutely. There is. And
Yeah.
so we've come towards the end of our podcast episode, and I do want to play a little game with you. All
Okay.
right. Now, this is the NP edition. So it's called rapid fire. Okay. So
Okay.
I'm just gonna give you two words and you just pick one or the other. Okay, rapid
Okay.
fire. Golf or bowling?
Golf,
Yoga or pedicure?
yoga,
Cardiology or critical care?
cardiology,
Morning clinic or afternoon clinic?
afternoon clinic.
All right, all right. You say forget waking up at 6, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to be there.
Right. That's probably the only piece that I didn't miss about the hospital, okay?
Hmm. Yep, that's true. That's true.
Yes.
And then the last question is, if your week had a theme song, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's a hard question. Let me see. Okay. Um, theme song. Uh, Probably Michael Jackson, Living Off the Wall, okay? Because
Ooh,
we're gonna put that 9 to 5 up on the shelf,
yeah.
okay? No matter if it's good or bad, that's still a part, at the end of the week, you want to decompress and just
Mhm.
get refreshed for the next week to keep going.
Absolutely. Ooh, well, that was a good one. That was a good one. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
So thank you, Danielle, once again. And to our listeners, as you step away from today's conversation with Danielle, I want you to pause and notice what stirred inside you. The parts of her story that felt familiar, the moments that made you exhale, or the truths that made you sit up a little straighter. Her journey through identity, belonging, motherhood, and a 26-year climb in medicine is a reminder that resilience isn't loud. It's built quietly in childhood moments that shaped us, in professional seasons that sketched us, and in the daily choices we make to stay connected to ourselves. Consider these points throughout the week. Something simple but powerful. Choose one moment from your own life where you had to become resilient, even if you didn't have the language for it at the time. Write it down, sit with it, and ask yourself, what did that moment teach me about who I am? And what part of me did it help build? You don't have to share it with anyone. You don't have to make it pretty. Just honor it because your radiance, like Danielle's, was shaped long before you ever realized you were glowing. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, India.
Thank you. High achieving women behind the scene. Take a listen. How you feeling today?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
Good, good.
Good, good. I just got off work not too long ago and getting
Okay.
everything settled in here. How about you?
I've been running around all day with Dylan in football and getting football pictures taken and taking him back and forth to practice. I'm like, my God, you can't even
You-
have a job taking these kids to stuff.
Believe me, I know. I know. Were you guys at the yesterday for the scheduled pickup and everything?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a big job too.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I really want to chime in to women who aren't getting their story across because we need to get our stories across because we've been through a lot.
Right,
So,
exactly. And so I think like you say, Radiance Unbroken, that just spells it right out there. for all, women like that's in our shoes and just in the workforce. So,
Mhm. Absolutely. I got to
okay.
get the story out. That's all that matters. We need to help some people, right?
Yep, exactly right.
So, my mentors have told me it's not about being perfect, it's about trying to help people. So,